Welcome, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, to yet another chilling chapter of our dark human history. The year is 1462. The world's most powerful and ruthless emperor stares into absolute madness. Before him stands not a rebel army, but a sprawling forest of 20,000 tragic fallen victims. This was the incredibly dark psychological masterclass of Vlad the Impaler, a deeply cornered king. How did a broken hostage become the architect of history's most terrifying border defense? Mighty Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror marched his massive army to crush the tiny state of Wallachia. Having just taken Constantinople, they firmly believed no earthly force could ever break their fierce spirit. But as the heavy morning fog began to lift near Targoviste, the mighty Sultan suddenly froze in place. A horrific atmosphere of doom completely overwhelmed the elite Janissary soldiers in the vanguard. Stretching endlessly across the muddy valley were thousands of massive, crimson-stained wooden stakes. Each pole held the tragic remains of a captured Ottoman soldier or an unfortunate prisoner. Flocks of black crows circled the grey sky, descending endlessly upon the horrifying spectacle below. According to historical records, Mehmed stared at the tragic faces of his own elite warriors. The man who conquered the world's greatest city was utterly paralyzed by this devastating sight. Panic quickly spread like wildfire through the Ottoman ranks as they hopelessly dropped their heavy weapons. This was not traditional warfare. It was a calculated theater of unimaginable psychological horror. Trembling in pure and absolute terror, the mighty Sultan ordered his massive army to retreat immediately. Vlad had defeated a superpower without fighting a single conventional battle on the open field. Put yourself in the Sultan's shoes. Would you have the immense courage to march into that hellish forest? To understand this monstrous strategy, we must travel back 20 years to the Ottoman royal court. In 1442, the Wallachian ruler surrendered his two young sons as political hostages. Vlad and his younger brother Radu were forcefully dragged away to the magnificent Ottoman palace. This brutal diplomatic practice ensured that vassal states would remain deeply loyal to the mighty Sultan. While Radu quickly embraced the luxurious Turkish lifestyle, young Vlad harbored a deep, silent rage. He was frequently locked in dark stone dungeons, suffering severe psychological and physical abuse. From the shadows of his cold cell, the young prince closely observed the empire's absolute cruelty. He witnessed tragic ultimate judgments, learning exactly how the Ottomans used fear to control the masses. The young hostage realized that Wallachia could never defeat this giant empire with troop numbers alone. Survival required becoming something far more terrifying than the cruel captors who held him prisoner. Vlad carefully studied Ottoman military tactics, memorizing their hidden weaknesses and deep fears. He learned that strict discipline could easily shatter if soldiers were subjected to absolute trauma. His dark childhood trauma forged a cold, calculating mind completely devoid of basic human empathy. Modern psychologists argue that this extreme environment fundamentally rewired his developing brain. He was no longer just a helpless political prisoner. He was a dangerous weapon slowly sharpening itself. Years of silent observation transformed his immense suffering into a brilliant geopolitical strategy. When his father and older brother were tragically betrayed by rival nobles, Vlad swore devastating retribution. He finally escaped his golden cage, stepping into a chaotic world tearing itself completely apart. He returned to a shattered Wallachia, surrounded by treacherous lords and looming foreign invasions.
We won't if we act tonight.
The boy who left as a weeping hostage had finally returned as a cold and ruthless sovereign ruler. He fully understood that restoring order required an iron fist and rivers of traitorous crimson. Thus began the reign of Vlad the Impaler, a dark ruler forged in the fires of endless, bitter betrayal. He looked upon his crumbling kingdom and decided that extreme terror was the only viable cure. If your nation was collapsing from within, would you choose tyranny to save it from total ruin? The stage was now perfectly set for the most devastating defensive campaign in all of military history. Vlad would soon unleash a nightmare so profound that even his former captors would desperately beg for mercy. By 1456, Vlad had firmly seized the Wallachian throne and begun his ruthless, massive purge. He invited hundreds of treacherous boyars to a lavish banquet at his heavy, impenetrable stone fortress. As they feasted, his loyal guards suddenly locked the heavy wooden doors and silenced them all forever.
We are trapped here.
To establish absolute authority, he criminalized nearly every offense with one single consequence. Thieves, betrayers, and corrupt officials publicly met a devastating fate on tall wooden stakes without trial. This horrific method ensured victims would endure unspeakable suffering for days before finally expiring. When arrogant Ottoman envoys refused to remove their turbans, Vlad took incredibly swift and dark action. Historical texts say he permanently fastened the turbans directly onto the heads of the diplomats. This defiant consequence was a direct declaration of war against the most powerful empire on earth. Knowing the Sultan would retaliate with overwhelming force, Vlad prepared an asymmetrical defense. Lacking gold to build massive fortresses, he built a psychological border of pure and absolute terror. As the Ottoman army marched north, Vlad initiated a devastating scorched earth military campaign. He forcefully evacuated his own people, burning villages to ash and heavily poisoning all water wells. The advancing Turkish soldiers found absolutely nothing but disease, starvation, and endless barren ash. Under the cover of total darkness, Vlad personally led daring guerrilla raids into the enemy camp. His men dressed in Ottoman disguises, spreading massive confusion and vanquishing the sleeping soldiers. The night attack at Targoviste nearly succeeded in eliminating the mighty Sultan inside his tent. Exhausted, starving, and deeply terrified, the Ottoman morale was rapidly crumbling into absolutely nothing. Vlad captured thousands of elite enemy soldiers during these relentless and brutal midnight skirmishes. He did not pass judgment quickly. He needed them for his final masterpiece of psychological combat. The captured men were dragged to the muddy valley, where massive wooden poles were already prepared. Working tirelessly through the freezing night, Vlad's loyal men razed the horrific and tragic forest of the Lost. It was a calculated display of madness designed to completely shatter the minds of the approaching invaders. He turned his realm into a living nightmare, effectively weaponizing the dark landscape against them. This brings us back to that misty morning, where the great Sultan stared into the deep abyss of horror. The psychological trauma inflicted by the Forest of Stakes was an undeniable military masterpiece. Mehmed the Conqueror retreated, admitting he could not defeat a man who utilized such terrifying methods. Wallachia survived the massive invasion, securing its independence against truly impossible odds. But the heavy cost of this dark victory was Vlad's eternal reputation in the annals of human history. Standing alone on his high stone balcony, Vlad had successfully protected his highly vulnerable borders. He sacrificed his own humanity, embracing the monstrous identity his enemies forcefully pushed upon him. The printing press soon spread exaggerated tales of his extreme cruelty throughout Western Europe. He became the dark and terrifying inspiration for Bram Stoker's legendary fictional vampire, Count Dracula. Modern scholars, however, argue his ruthless methods were perfectly rational for his desperate time. In a ruthless 15th century world, a tiny buffer state could not survive with honorable warfare. He weaponized extreme cruelty to build an invisible wall that no foreign empire dared to cross. His chilling legacy forces us to deeply examine the incredibly thin line between a hero and a monster. When faced with absolute annihilation, the only viable defense was absolute, unrelenting terror. Vlad the Impaler remains one of history's most fascinating studies in dark political psychology. A tragic prince who stared so deeply into the abyss that he eventually became the terrifying abyss itself. His haunting forest of stakes stands as a dark reminder of the heavy price of ultimate national survival. History's monsters are rarely born. They are systematically forged in the ruthless fires of human conflict. Was Vlad Dracula a mindless and terrifying monster, or a brilliant geopolitical survivalist? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. We truly want to hear your unique perspective today. If you enjoyed this deep historical dive, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel.